Hello and welcome back, guys. This is Ibrahim Qureshi here, and today we are going to do a recording for vCenter server. So let's get started. I have already downloaded the vCenter server appliance from Broadcom, and we have it here, VCSA, and you can see this is the E drive which we have mapped in. So we just need to go in for the UI installer and then Windows 32, installer.exe. Let's try that. Okay, so we have the options here. So we will be doing an install a new vCenter. The first stage is deploying the vCenter server. You'll select next, accept the terms and conditions, and then accept next. So we'll be installing it on this particular host. The username is root, password is my password. Quickly show you the host again. So this is the host we are going to install. No, it's this one, sorry. So this is the one we are going to install it on. It has a lot of CPUs, as you can see. 4% is only used. Memory, it is using 9 gig, but it is having 22 GB remaining, so that's good. And we have 4 terabyte free space. So yeah, it's using around about 1 terabyte. Pretty sure it's the VM server which is using here most of it. Hard drive. Yeah, it's sitting on that. Okay, so we will be using this one. So let's go back on the setup, and then we have given all these things. Yes. So name of the server, we will give a name to this server. I already have VCSA 8 there. This will be VCSA 8U3, but let's just give VCSA. So okay, obviously we just need to give the name VCSA. Let's call it VCSA. Set a root password for this. Next, it will validate this. So for my lab, I would go for 2 CPU, 14 GB RAM. Will not be having more than 10 hosts for sure, and we need 2 CPUs and 14 GB RAM, and it can manage up to 100 VMs, which is fine. If we want to go down where we want to have at least 100 VM, more than 10 at least, so then we'll have to jump to small. But the memory requirement is 21 GB there. So let's leave everything on tiny and enable thin mode, because we want to have thin provisioning, and it's going to be installed on this data store, which is fine. So we'll be using VM network, that is fine. Static IP address, the IP address will be VCSA. Let's quickly check whether we have a DNS entry here for anything, and let's look up VCSA. vcenter.lab.agileops.co.uk. So one of the pre-requirement is we need to make sure we have a DNS set up. 52 is my Active Directory domain controller, so let's jump on that and make sure we have the correct DNS server running. Okay, so we just logged into our domain controller, and now what we are going to do is launch view. Now let's get rid of this. DNS. Get rid of this. So we have our DNS lookup in agileops.co.uk. Let's see what we have here. vCenter 1 is pointing to this. We could use that, to be honest. Could just use 10.10.11 as an IP, and we can call it vCenter 1, or we can just rename this to VCSA. The best way to do it is just get rid of it, delete. Then we also had something called VCSA here. There you go. Yeah, we'll just use this one, VCSA 10.10.10.1. Let's stick to that. I'm happy with that. So it's just to verify basically, and if you go ns cmd ns lookup VCSA, it's resolving. That's good. So it's good. That's the vcsa.lab.agileops.co.uk. Let's go back here. See, vcsa.lab.agileops.co.uk. So that's the fully qualified domain name. Okay, so we got that. That's the IP address. Subnet is 255.0. I have a /8 network because it's a lab, so I wanted to have many IPs. The gateway is 250. DNS will be 10.10.10.252 for now. So we are not going to touch that. Next, we are almost done. Just review what we have given. We are going to have a deployment which is tiny, which is around 10 ESX host and 100 virtual machine, and then we will have the IP address 10.10.10.1, the name of the appliance, fully qualified domain name is vcsa.lab.agileops.co.uk. This is what we tested and it's working. The gateway is my gateway, the subnet is my subnet which I know, and then the DNS. So we got all that, and then we click finish. So this should then start creating this VM. Can you see this here? There you go, that VM is getting created. That's the one. It's just getting created now. So this is the first stage, I will pause the video now and then we'll continue it once this is deployed. So we'll go to the stage 2 of the deployment after that. So guys, we have completed the stage 1. As you can see here, what we are going to do now is we are going to continue to the stage 2. If at any point if you have left this installation for longer, then it will basically time out. We don't know whether it has timeout right now, but if it does timeout, then you can always connect to the IP address of the vCenter server and the port 5480 and then continue it from there. But let's see what happens now. Okay, so it's going, yeah, this picked up that stage 1 is completed. You get a tick in the box, tick here, you can see that. Start with the stage 2. So not a lot of configuration is required for stage 2. If you're adding it to an existing SSO, which is a vCenter domain which is called SSO, then you will have to give the SSO administrator password and the SSO domain. But at the moment we'll create a new SSO domain basically. So let's click next. Time synchronization, like leave it to NTP, leave it to the ESX host. SSH, let's activate that. Click next. So it will pick up the time from the ESX host. So let's go to the ESX host. This is the one which we are installing. Obviously it has timed out. I just want to show you the NTP settings where we have wrong password. So that's the vCenter server we just installed, and you can see it installed successfully. It has 12 GB of RAM. We go to manage, and then you can see the NTP settings here. I am using uk.pool.ntp.org and it has the correct time. Okay, so let's get back here. So as I said, we will use the domain vsphere.local and then administrator username administrator at vsphere.local. We could change this at this point to lab.local or lab.agileops.co.uk or whatever you want to call it here. Or in some organizations you have like DMZ, if you have a DMZ1, or you have like test environment. So this could be a test vCenter, so you'll have it as a test.local or test dot whatever it is dot v. So essentially you'll get it as test dot v sphere phe dot local, like that. So what we'll do is we'll leave it. So we could add lab dot vsphere dot local, like that, and that is authorized name, so we can have it like that. And we will give the password here. In some places where you have multiple vCenters and you have a dev environment and a test environment, you will probably want to have a test.vsphere.local and a, if you have a development environment for the VMware environment, or if you have a development environment and it is managed by development vCenter server, then you can have a dev dot vsphere.local. Now this is basically creating a new SSO, but if you do have existing SSO and you have a vCenter running with the existing SSO and you want to add it to the same SSO, you can just say join to an existing one and then click next and it will do that. So at this moment, as I said, we created a new SSO. Remember that this is lab.vsphere.local. okay, and click next. So we'll make sure we will agree. I think at the bottom you need to check, yeah, join this. So customer experience, and then next, and there you go. You have all your configuration here. Remember your SSO detail, this is very important. What I would normally do is control minus here. Well, basically take a screenshot. So I would recommend taking a screenshot. Go to snip tool and then take a screenshot of this, so you have the configuration with you, and then in that way you will not forget what you had. So let's call it VCSA. Okay, and we'll save it to desktop. Okay, let's save it here. So this is only for information. Let's close this. And this information, we know that we have given it a subnet mask and IP address there. Click finish and click OK. So that will run through the setup on the second stage of the vCenter installation. As I said, this stage only is focusing on creating a SSO account or a domain, SSO domain for the vCenter server. In the previous versions, we had something called PSC, which is Platform Service Controller. From version 7, they were trying to get rid of it. They introduced it in version 6, and then 6.5, and then 6.7 as well. We had it, and then from 7 they started removing this, and they were converging it back to the same vCenter. So essentially now you don't have all that, so that's a bit of history for you guys to remember. We only have a vCenter server and that support it. We could potentially have a HA pair running, high availability, but it's just if you are just having a smaller environment, you don't need all that. And HA has a requirement of you need to have a shared LUN where you can, which needs to be there for making sure HA is working. So that is also a requirement. So let's continue with this setup. It's still 0%. Once it's done, I will resume the video, and then we'll start and connect to the vCenter server, probably get to creating a cluster, a data center and a cluster, and then add some of the ESX hosts which are running here. So now you can see the stage 2 is completed successfully, and you can see we have the URL here. Let's click on that, advanced, proceed. So if you remember, we need to log in with administrator at lab.vsphere.local. That's the URL we need to use. So domain example ADM-. So it's no longer administrator at vsphere.local. Let's cancel that. At lab.vsphere.local. Okay, so we will log in now. This is update 3, vCenter 8 update 3. We are logging in now. And close this. So that's it. Obviously we don't have anything here connected so far. Just a brand new vCenter. If we go home, you can see nothing is there. Let's take a quick snap of this. The home screen. Get rid of that. Let's see what we can do now. We go to clusters and we start adding inventory. So right click, create a new data center. Let's call it London. We are going to create a new cluster. Lab O1 cluster. I'm going to enable these things later on. Don't need to enable now. So it is looking for the ESI version. So the better way to do it would be because I don't have any images at this point. What we can do is untick that. That should allow us to build the cluster for now. Everything is disabled. We'll obviously enable and go through the training, and we'll enable DRS, high availability, and other bits. Finish. I'm looking for EVC mode. Where's EVC go? That's disabled. Edit. So the challenge we have is these virtual machines are actually powered, the virtual machines are powered on, and we might need to power some stuff off before we can introduce anything in the cluster. So let's do that. Check what we have with the names. Let's look up. So that's CSX3. Let's start with that one. To the one. So next. So you can see the differences. These two are interlock, and it's saying how many virtual machines are powered on, and this one should have 3, yeah, 3, 1, 2, 3. So these two are added now, and all 3 are now added, as you can see, successfully, but they haven't gone inside the cluster, so we could potentially move them in the cluster. Alright, we need to do the licensing and everything for that, but you can see we did create a cluster, but it's not been used. We didn't add it to the cluster, we added it to the data center London. At this point, basically they are just standalone host added here. We don't need this. What we'll do is we'll create a new cluster later on, and then we have to put on maintenance mode, enable EVC, because they have different CPUs and stuff, and then we can add them in the cluster. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you enjoy the session. Make sure you like and subscribe and share it in your network. Thanks. Bye.